Hey, everybody, welcome. I'm Andrea Johnson, the Intentional Optimist, and you are tuning in to my special guest speaker series with a really special guest today. Kelly Hoey is a lawyer turned networking guru and author. Welcome, Kelly.
Hey, good to see you.
What I love too about our conversations is that she can match my energy and probably surpass it. So look out.
This is like two, molecules, colliding and
Yes.
creating more energy. And yeah, watch we are our own, renewable resource. So yes.
Well, that's the way power works, right? That's the way energy works, is that it becomes self-perpetuating. But I loved our conversation that was aired this last week, or actually Monday on episode 76. And it's literally the name of your book, which is Create Your Dream Network. And most of us, Kelly, we think of like telling a kid to eat their greens when we talk about networking. So, and I love the fact that you've made it something that's really simple and very organic and very simple. And so, anybody, if you want to hear the full conversation and a little bit of her story, which is also very inspirational, check out the podcast episode. We'll put all that information underneath this in the comments. So, tell us a little bit so that anybody who doesn't have access to it or doesn't want to listen to the whole podcast, how did you get where you are in, I don't know, a nutshell?
Well, let's first off start with why wouldn't anyone want to listen to the whole podcast? This is to entice you to
That's a
listen
good
to
one.
the whole podcast. Yeah, I started my career as an attorney, a very, kind of traditional, I think I had a very traditional mindset in terms of graduating, going to undergraduate, then getting, like finishing, an undergraduate degree and going, okay, I need to get a professional degree. And, then you get an office job and you work your way up the corporate ladder. But realized when I started practicing law that to succeed, I needed to build relationships. And doing that in a way when I was in an industry that rewards billable hours, which means it's rewarding the time behind the desk,
Mm,
which is in direct I want to say conflict with
right.
the other tool of success, which was relationships. So very early in my career, which started way back in 1991, I realized I needed to find new, novel, consistent ways to build relationships so that I wasn't doing it in kind of a stop start kind of way. Like I would say when you get in one of those taxi cabs and a taxi cab driver who
Ooh,
drives with a foot on the gas and then a foot on the brake, you if you do that with your networking,
it'll make you just as sick at your stomach.
well, or people are going to be sick like every time you show up in their inbox because they're like, hold on, you're only showing up when you need something or
Right.
whatever, rather than continually fueling your network with little bits of information or an update or a birthday greeting, and then you show up, all these years later, and people think you're marvelous at networking.
Well, because, and one of my major takeaways is the fact that you said that every single human interaction is networking.
Exactly, exactly. Like
And that just
how we
sounds so simple.
right. Well, you think about all the chances that you have to interact with people. And, just before getting on this interview with you, I, was turning put the focus on with that device so that things aren't ringing and binging and all this kind of stuff. But I happened to look and I had 3 text messages from 3 people I haven't heard from in a while, other than liking and commenting or and whatever. And one's like, how are you doing? Work is bringing me to New York in April. Are you going to be around? Another one's like, I know we haven't talked in a few weeks, but how's that coaching program going? And another one's like, hey, you popped up in my stream, on some social, and I just want to know how you're doing. That in my mind is networking.
Oh,
And
yeah, that's
the
great.
fact that, one person I've known for years through industry, one person I've done a lot of work with, like they don't need to invite me for coffee or it doesn't need to be a big to do. It's how are you being intentional and letting know people that you're thinking about them using the tools that we have. So is that a text? Is that a tweet? Is that an email? Is that an update? Is that a holiday card? No,
Yeah. Is that a wave? Is that
a little something. Well,
a
one of
telephone?
Right. I mean, and at home, I could race over to my fridge and grab it. But one of the things I love is a friend of mine, she and her wife and kids always send a holiday card. And it
Mhm.
gives like a big update. It's got some photos from the year, and they,
Yeah.
look forward to that sort of thing. Well, it didn't arrive this year, which is a
Oh,
little disappointing. And then I got a Valentine. They were too busy at the end of the year. So they did their annual mailing at Valentine's.
smart.
And I was like, you know what? This is almost better. This is almost better. So
Because it didn't come with everybody else's.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so, when I think about networking, you might be like, oh, I should get in touch with those people. Well, why don't you? And
Right.
if you're not the holiday card type, well, become the Valentine Day card or the, whatever, and give people
Yeah.
those updates. And it maintains connections and it really helps.
Well, and even, you did mention, you said outside of liking their stuff and commenting on their things and seeing them on social media, that's still contact.
Absolutely. And it might give you the spark or the prod to think of something else.
Yeah.
Oh, you've been posting a lot on X. I
Right.
just read this article. You may have already seen it, but hey, I thought I'd send it along, and love that you're, whatever you're doing. Like you can think of things like watch and observe other people. And we can get all caught up in ourselves. I think that's, that big hurdle with networking. We're like, oh my
Yeah.
God, like the lights on me and, all this kind of stuff. And what am I going to say? Why don't you watch and listen? And based on other people's behaviors, what are they interested in? And how can you use that to spark a conversation or a reconnection or, something else?
Well, and I think that that's really smart to remember because one of the things in my philosophy of intentional optimism is turning the focus away from myself and making it a little bit more others focused so that number one, I don't get all inside myself and inside my head and like all small and depressed. But then I become, because when you're others focused, you tend to notice those things better. You tend to be more present. You tend to have more energy, just like us pinging off each other. You tend to have a little bit more optimism and hope because you can see things, right? I just met my grandnephew last week, and he's only a month old. And I mean, this is my sister's only daughter's first baby, right? So this is a big deal. And I remember my son is adopted. He's only 13. And I remember my son was one of those that you had to turn facing out. There was no pat on my shoulder. There was nothing. And this little one he was starting to look like that too. So I was kind of holding him where he could see out the front the windows. And I said, "Oh my gosh, he's going to be a little bit like mine." And she said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Don't you remember? Look back at all of our pictures. Mine was facing out. He had to be facing people. It was just like this constant input information." And it's this beautiful little picture of kind of how I want to be. I want to be outward facing so that I am meeting people and I am interacting with people. Because when somebody meets your eye, you're less likely to go, right? You're more likely to go, "Oh, hi."
Right, and you make a connection. And I
Yeah.
also think when we're whirling in our, interior anxiety about connecting people and how we're going to connect and all the rest of it, if we can stop and look outward, we can also realize other people are having that,
Right.
internal tornado of anxiety on this. And chances are they don't want to jump on another Zoom coffee date, or chances are, they don't want somebody else impinging on their time, depending on who they are and what's going on
Yeah.
in their lives. But just reaching out with a, how the heck are you? May be a really substantial networking move and the right networking move to make.
Yeah. And you never know the timing. I've had an email that just thinking of someone, "Hey, just checking in on you. How you doing?" And come back with, "Oh my gosh, I really needed to hear from you today. Thank you so much. This is what's going on." And you're going to call that serendipity, right? I mean, it's just like, or it's because it's not really coincidence. I might even call it providence or just the way things work when we try to be more in tune with other people. It just happens that those things come our way, and then we have the opportunity to kind of meet their needs as well.
Well, it's,
Go ahead.
you say serendipity, and there's a great book called Happenstance, and it's always like people like, oh, I just got lucky, and you're like, time out.
Yeah.
You know, pure I want to say luck is, I don't know, you get the upgrade on an airline and it happens to be, but maybe it isn't luck. Maybe it's just, your good fortune because you flew a lot and you got a lot of points and status that
Uh-huh.
hooked you up for free, right? But you get my point. But the idea of just pure happenstance, like in a networking event, I mean, you've chosen to be there.
Yeah.
You've made a concerted effort. You've blocked off the time, or you've jumped on the Zoom. The putting yourself in serendipity is like turning on the camera and engaging and participating.
Right.
But that is a conscious decision. That isn't just, it's not like
Right.
lightning striking.
Right. And one of the ways you put it was you can't just hit the button or swipe the credit card. You actually have to do the work. And so my takeaway from that was it's a little bit more than just placement, because if you put yourself in the center of an intersection of two crossroads, it's possible cars can drive around you. And I know this is that's like bad to say it this way. Let's say serendipity could drive around you. Let's put it that way, an opportunity.
Right.
But if you're looking down the road and you step into that and you say, oh, here it comes, I am going to step right in front of serendipity or right in front of opportunity, then you've done a lot more action than you think. And I really liked that takeaway. That was really helpful for me. So your book is it's 5 years old, 6 years old now?
Yeah, Build Your Dream Network is 5. The baby is 5.
Congratulations. Kindergarten.
Yeah, for all the moms watching this, it's like, yes, the baby can tie its own shoes.
Out the house.
Hey, wipe its own nose. I can turn my mind to new things. Yes.
So, but because of that, you wrote a special 70-page extra bonus that is right there on your website. You don't have to put your email in, you don't do anything. And it's reflections on kind of through the pandemic.
Yeah, because I mean, a lot of people,
Not a whole lot has changed, but which was good.
From my perspective, and a lot of things I talk about in Build Your Dream Network. I mean, I've been talking this way on networking for an awful long time, like 2009, 2010, maybe before. So, a long time before 2017 when the book was published. But people were saying, where's you need to update your book. And I read through it and I thought, these are minor edits that I would make because some of the tools and startups I mentioned are no longer around or the platforms aren't around. So I would mention, take them out, strike them out, and maybe mention something else, but very few things. And so when I was really encouraged to do an update for COVID, I thought, that's a bit depressing. I don't want to read a book that says COVID throughout it. Like, I don't know about you. I've got one am reading that's got that in it. And every time I see it, I kind of cringe because I think
it'll never go away, right? It's like constant.
It may date it in terms of, is this just COVID advice?
Yeah.
So, but I thought, people want something of like, these are nice case studies, Kelly, but give me something where someone has been doing like in this extraordinary scenario that we've been in. And so that's why I did the book bonus, and also sort of like, hey, it's the book's birthday. Here's the party for everybody. Here's some updates. And really everyone in it, it was really tracking behaviors that they had been exhibiting pre-COVID, or, when I think of like Ian Saunders' case study in the book bonus, I mean, it was like, all right, the intentionality, and I almost say when put words in Ian's mouth, the idea of that, all right, this provided an opportunity, this being the pandemic, to really take a pivot on who and how I'm connecting with people, because my business is known in this stream and I want to take it over here. So it provided the opportunity for him to intentionally shift from being very London and local in how and who he was connecting with to being international.
Well, and I think that you can find those everywhere, right? You can find those from local businesses to online businesses, and just to have some pieces, some case studies in your hand that are really helpful for you to see, because maybe you're listening to this, somebody, and you don't know exactly how can I do that pivot. Well, these are some great examples. So let's say, Kelly, somebody hasn't read your book. Let's say that they're like, you know what, this is the piece that's missing, right? I want to make a difference and I really want to make a change. Let's go through that just a little bit. And one of the other things you have on your website is some amazing worksheets. This girl loved me some worksheets, and they're fun because here's the thing, not everybody learns the same way, and you've provided resources that if you just want the book, there's your book. If you need the bonus, you got that too. If you need to figure certain things out, she's got you covered. So let's walk a little bit through how somebody would start with the book and or the worksheets. And I have examples to hold up. And let's just kind of walk through that just a little bit, because it's not just for the professional who just really wants to do something, right? It's for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I've found that my book has been picked up, and the contents, everyone from students to, you know, encore career professionals. So someone who's retired and thinking about doing something
Mhm.
else. And the first thing I would say is, yeah, I mean, first read the book, but second thing I would say is head to my website, jkellyhoey.co, because if you go to the page with the book bonus, you will find links to the worksheets. You'll find links to Notion where there's some checklists and things like that. So lots of free resources and stuff there. But the big thing I would say, and thinking of someone I was speaking with in the past week, first things first in all this stuff with networking, Andrea, is like, take a big deep breath. Like, just take, like, because I think we get, oh my God, I got to network. Okay, and
Right.
we jump into, I want to say, anxiety, because we focus on the activity, and we focus on an activity that we need to do with people that we don't know yet. And so we just whirl ourselves into a
Sure.
craziness. And I'm just like, breathe. Like, first off, just stop. Okay. What is it you're trying to achieve? Who are the people, whether that's an individual, a group, or an entity, that could perhaps help you on that path to achieving what you want to achieve? And then the third thing is, what is the action or activity to connect with them? So just from that very simple 1, 2, 3, you see, I've sort of reversed the equation.
Right.
People think networking, they think jump into action. And I'm like, pause, think, reflect, then plan your activity.
And I love the fact that you start with what do you need, right?
Uh-huh.
And the worksheet basically says, what's your goal? And it's everything from I have an idea, but to I have no clue. And it's a decision tree that makes it really simple and then kind of walks you through once you figure out what you need, right? Your step one, then what's the next piece after that? And I love that you make it strategic, and because when someone knows they need to build a dream network and they might, let's say they have no idea what the goal is and they're figuring it out. This is where you even have in here, look at some past interests, put aside your ego and be creative, talk to a mentor, take a skills assessment. I'm like, this is all the stuff I say to people as a coach. And I'm like, oh, this is really good stuff. And there's even doing more research, excuse me, and moving on and deciding, okay, so if I know this is my goal, let's say my goal is to be a network weather woman, right?
Right.
Then that's a completely different networking path than if I want to be a lawyer or if I want to be a medical executive administrator. They're all very different paths. And so do you find that these worksheets are great for people to just kind of take with the book and work along with it? Do you find that they get really good results that way?
Yeah, because it's one thing to read and have case studies that you go, oh, well, I could do that. But sometimes you need to put it into work, and you need to. I mean, I'm sort of laughing because one of the more amusing, say book reviews where someone, wasn't that enamored with my book. They said it wasn't helpful to have these case studies of all these people with successful networks. And I said to myself, I don't think this reader got the hint that these people these were not Rockefellers, and, like these people were not born with beautiful fully baked networks. These people worked on it and created it, and that was the point. Not like, here's another successful person. And I intentionally interview people who were not household names so that people could see, like, oh, I can do this. Oh, I see how they cold networked to get a job. Oh, I see how they got active and built their business. So that's why, the idea with the worksheets is like, all right, words on a page are nice, case studies that you can see yourself in are nice, but let's put pen to paper and really get you enthused and energized that you have the resources. The other thing I'd say is, and people should realize, like, I eat my own dog food on this one, right? Like, I follow my own network.
Oh, I was like, I got very literal there for a moment, and I'm like, "Are you serious?"
No, I don't have a weird diet along with
Wait, oh my
the
head. Okay, I'm back in the game.
All right, so I follow my own advice. So when I
Yeah.
think of like that goal worksheet,
Mhm.
at some point here, okay, so I've had my legal career, I've had a management career, I've been doing some stuff with startups and entrepreneurs. And then it's, kind of 2000, 14, and I'm like, I think I want to write a book. And I remember when I had the idea, I wanted to write, it was like this very tiny little voice, like, I want to write a book. And I sat down, I said, well, where do you even start? Where does the book process, like, what does that even look like? So there was my first goal. Like, I need an answer to that question.
Mhm.
And I'm assuming that in writing a book, there's various options: self-publishing, a publisher, hybrid publishing. Which route's right for me? There's another question. That's another goal to get that answered. And then, all right, if I'm going to go the publisher, how do you get a literary agent? Oh, you have to write a thing called a book proposal. What the heck does that look like, right? So I literally had all these questions and I wrote them down, and then I sat and I thought, where can I get the answer? Now, of course, I can go to, Google and Google away, but I thought, you know what? Besides getting lost in a rabbit hole of, there's too much information, is there
Which is
anyone,
what most of us do.
right, is there someone in my network I can ask? And I literally started taking those questions. And a former neighbor of mine was in the publishing industry. Now she
Mhm.
is in cookbook publishing, but she can explain
Right.
generally how the industry works. So had lunch with Katie, and she told me about how the industry works. Had a couple other friends who were working on books, and so I was able to reach out to them and say,
Mm.
"Can you talk to me about writing a book proposal?" Another person I know who's written multiple books, both publisher driven and self-published, and I said, can we talk, because I would really like to understand why these different routes and what you chose. And sitting down with Jonathan, and he's sort of like, well, what do you want to achieve at the end of the book? What's
Mm.
the purpose of the book? Well, then I think you should go the publisher route, and this is what you're going to need to do that. And I was like, okay, got it, right? And so
That's the answers.
literally, like, what are my questions? So when we say goals, it's not like, oh, I need to make a career change. That's big and lofty and vague. But
Mhm.
what are the questions? Each question is its own like mini goal.
Yeah.
And that's what that goal worksheet is really helpful. And then helping you think about who in your network, either directly or indirectly, can help you answer those questions.
Well, so it's not even just about building your network, it's about building and utilizing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I
Yeah.
mean, your network,
I mean,
if you
that's what it's for.
right, like, if unless you've been a complete jerk, I mean, your network wants to help you.
Yeah, and I think that that's something that we usually forget and that we have a hard time with because we don't wanna spam people, we don't wanna bother people, but what we forget is that we like to help people and they like to help us, you know?
Right. So
Um,
that goal worksheet's helpful because it's make it easy for your network to help you.
sure,
So,
sure.
like, if I just sort of done a mass email to people saying, I'm thinking about writing a book, can someone help me? That is spam. That is
Yeah.
unhelpful. That is a really poor way of utilizing your network rather than niching your network, segmenting it, focusing on people's particular interest and expertise and knowledge so that they can get you a timely answer.
Yeah,
And if you do that, you're actually like, it feels good to help other people. Like, we get a dopamine hit. And there's an adrenaline rush when, like,
for
we can help
sure.
people. So make it easy for them to help you by being very precise and considerate in how you reach out and ask and what you reach out and ask them for.
Well, and that also brings up the point that you need to know who they are. You need to know them, and you actually have to have a relationship. They're not just an acquaintance. They're not somebody you met at a chamber event. I mean, they could be, but you should probably build the relationship first.
Right, or you be really precise in what your ask is, right? So, the difference between someone reaching out to me and saying, "We don't know each other, but I'm really interested in your career, Kelly. Could we jump on a Zoom?" The answer would be no. Uh, but if someone reached out and said, wow, like I've read your book and I just watched your podcast interview with Andrea and you talked about how you did this, but I don't understand this one career move you made. Like you did, is there somewhere you could direct me to information to explain how the heck you ended up as a co-founder as a startup accelerator? Like I can't, like, is there anything else on that you can explain to me? That would be an email and a question I'd be excited to answer from a
Right.
complete and utter stranger because they've actually done the work.
Right.
And they've
Right.
set themselves up for success in the conversation by doing the work well before reaching out.
Yeah. And part of that is, I mean, another worksheet that you've got here that I just love. It's the why filter,
Yes.
and figuring out what that is. And you kind of illustrated it perfectly. It's like, from your perspective and from their perspective, right?
Right. Well, and the why filter is so good because, I mean, I always, some people tease me on the expression, stop committing random acts of
And
networking.
it's fun, y'all. Look at this. Right.
So when I think random acts of networking, I think like go back in the day when we were always just like filling up our calendar with in-person
Chamber event.
schmoozy networking events, and you're
Mhm.
standing there, cocktail in hand, and you're like,
Mhm.
why am
Here's
I
my
here?
business card. Don't you want it?
Yeah, yeah. You're standing there going, why am I here? Why did I sign up for this? And I'm like, no, 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 no. Understand your why so that you're not ending up with random stuff on your calendar that you have no idea why you've selected it.
Mhm.
And having clarity on your why, like I need to go to these chamber events, regardless of how busy I am, regardless of what's going on with my family and work, because and you've got the answer, you've got your why, you know that with clarity why these things are important and why you need to be present and invest your time. So I the
Mhm.
why worksheet, and that one is a friend, I would say a favorite of my friend Caitlin Harper. She's written a blog post on it and how she's applied the why filter, but it gets rid of the FOMO, it adds that clarity, and it enables you when stuff lands in your inbox to
Yeah.
kind of go no, no, no.
Mhm.
Or when someone says, "Hey, you should attend this," you can look at them and go,
Why?
"What?" Like a polite why of like, "Tell me more. Why
Right.
why are these chamber events so valuable? What have you gotten out of them? How long have you been involved? What's the investment I need to make it equally valuable for me?" And that's a good way of figuring out where you should be investing your precious time.
And, I have some other events that I participate in that have actually yielded some really good network building opportunities with other coaches who grant referrals, or with people who can be great podcast guests, and, that kind of thing. So I spend time, you know, it's the prioritizing that's really good. And but I love that question. What investment do I need to make it just as profitable for me? Because it may not be money, it might be time.
Right,
Right?
right,
Or
yeah.
it could be your mental health.
Or yeah, like I remember when I was very much involved with the women's business networking group, and all sorts of things were happening for me in my sort of stature and profile. And some women I worked with, because I still had a job at that time, they said, "Oh my God, we're going to join." And I remember going, "Whoa, time out! Hold on a minute here.
Yeah,
Let's." Like the Wizard of Oz, let's pull what's behind the curtain. Let me show you how much I've invested to produce these results.
yeah,
You need to ask yourself whether or not you're prepared to make that investment, because I don't know without that investment if you will have the same outcome I did.
yeah. So some of this is while every single human interaction is networking, it is good still to be intentional and purposeful, and it's almost necessary to be intentional and purposeful.
I think it's critical because I think your best networking, I'm gonna say tools, it's not your mouth. It's you're like your eyes and your ears. It's being
Mm,
present. It is listening, not hearing. It's listening.
Mm.
And if you're not intentional, if you're not purposeful, if you're not deliberate and considerate in your networking choices, then you are not going to take advantage of those two things. You are not going to observe, you're not going to be present, you aren't going to listen.
Those are like just basic communication principles. And there are things that whenever we teach communications to people, whenever we teach relationship building to people, it's always, those are the things. It's like you have two ears and one mouth and two eyes and one mouth. And so these are really valuable insights. And I know that reading your book and listening to other podcasts, as well as this one that you are on. And I know that you have lots of stuff on your website. There are ways to book you as a speaker and to work with you. This is the best way to get in touch with you, right? jkellyhoey.co. Is there anything that you want to leave us with as far as where we're headed in the next probably 6 to 8 months with networking, and kind of a parting, here's your extra, what you got?
Here's your extra. Listen, you know what we've realized, I think what we've really realized over, the last 24 plus months is relationships matter. Prioritize building relationships.
Yeah.
Instead of thinking, oh my God, it's a hybrid event or it's another virtual event, or I got to think about how can I use the tools at hand to build and create the best connections. And yes, it's work. That's why the word networking's got work in it. It wasn't easier before. We were just, I think we fell into a pattern and in a habit, and create new habits and understand that, this is what's going to carry you forward personally, professionally, whatever, you want to do. Don't worry about technology. Where's innovation going? Worry about relationships.
Relationships are key. People are the most important.
Absolutely.
Kelly, thank you so much. This has been always a delight to speak with you. I look forward to our future interactions and having fun. And I would love to head up to New York and hang out and do some fun stuff up there. And if you're ever in the Virginia area, let me know. We will have fun.
We will.
So we've got your website here, and don't forget to check out the podcast. We'll put all of that information in the notes here below. And thank you so much. And we're going to sign off for today.